for being with us today for this special and unique event. Yeshiva College is a Torah school committed to excellence in religious and general studies. Today is an incredible celebration of this, combining the best in education with the best in business. Welcome to our dear Rosh Yeshiva, our spiritual leader, Rabbi Avraham Tanzer, shlita, a dear friend and a close colleague of Gerald Z, Rabbi Glicksberg, honored Rabbanim, Chairman of the Board, Avram Pringle, Chairman of the Foundation, Lawrence Rapp, honored guest and tributee, our immediate past Chairman of the Board of Governors, Mr. Israel Bender. Welcome to you, Avril, and to your dear family. It's an honor to give you honor today. To the Leissner family present with us here today and those joining us online from Israel, we hope that today is a fitting tribute to the incredible legacy of your dear husband, father and grandfather. Thank you to all of you for coming from far and wide to join us. I think that is the ultimate tribute to Gerald and to the legacy that he created for us at Yeshiva College. Please focus your attention on the screens.
Good afternoon, my good friend. Good to see you. Long time no see. And welcome to my office. Welcome to Yeshiva College. It is indeed a pleasure to see you. And I thank you so much for coming in. Let me just tell you one or two things about what we're doing right now. As you know, the Yeshiva College is celebrating now its 65th year. 65 years of bringing Torah education to this community. Yeshiva College, as you also know, of course, was the first religious school in this country. First religious Jewish Dati school in the Republic of South Africa. And the dream was that we could have young people growing up in this country committed to Torah learning, Torah living, and making a contribution to the community in which they live. A positive contribution based on chesed, based on giving, caring, sharing, all those values that we call paramount to Judaism. What Rabbi Akiva called the golden rule. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva said the golden rule, v'yohavta l'recha kamecha, love your fellow man. Love your fellow means care about him, be concerned about him, worry about him, and help him, of course, in every way that you can.
Hi there, welcome to Yeshiva College. It's great to have you here and thanks so much for giving us your time to be here. It is my absolute delight to take you around the school and share a little bit about Yeshiva College in 2018. Yeshiva College really is a school for the 21st century where we see our eternal values of the Torah rooted deep within our children as that incredible essence comes out through them, with them being driven to make a beautiful impact on the world around them, succeeding in industry, succeeding in Torah learning, succeeding in being beautiful fathers and mothers to families as they develop through. But really it's all about school, and school are the best years of your life, and that's what we aim to give at Yeshiva College. So it really is my privilege and pleasure to be able to take you around today. Welcome. Hope you've had a beautiful time going around Yeshiva College and seeing the incredible campus and incredible legacy that our dear Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Avraham Tanzer shlita has built. We are committed to give every deserving learner the ability to have a Yeshiva College education, the unique opportunity to dream of a future, the unique opportunity to realize their potential.
They will grow up to be independent, Torah-rooted people, giving back to their community, giving back to their families, giving back to our future. And we get back a community that's enriched by individuals that are rooted in Torah, that are rooted in the beautiful life that Yeshiva College offers.
For 65 years we have survived because of you and yours and your families. For that I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you again for supporting us now and extend our sincerest blessings to you and yours. All good health, all happiness, all nachas, and the best in this world you'd like for yourselves and for your families. Thank you so much. Thanks for the visit. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Avraham Tanzer, shlita, Rabbi Liron Bernstein, Managing Director of Yeshiva College, Rabbi Shlomo Glicksberg, Rosh Kollel, Honored Rabbonim, Mr. Avram Krengle, Chairman of Yeshiva College, members of the Leissner family, guest speakers Marc Wainer and David Shapiro, and honorary Mr. Israel Bender and his family. My name is Lawrence Rapp, and as Chairman of Yeshiva College, Yeshiva College Foundation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural Gerald Leissner Memorial Business Breakfast, or as some have put it, the Yeshiva College Property Convention. As many of you know, late Gerald was a stalwart within the South African business community, Jewish community, and specifically one of the pillars of the Yeshiva College Community, where he, together with his beloved Rosh Yeshiva, built our campus into one of the most vibrant centers of Jewish life, not only in South Africa, but in the broader Jewish world. For me, Gerald was not only a colleague in the property industry, but a role model. In fact, Gerald's advice was central to me leaving the banking world and joining the property industry some 7 years ago. Gerald epitomized everything that I aspire to, and I think many of us in this room would aspire to. He reached the pinnacle of the business world, was a devoted, committed, and highly effective communal leader, lived his life as a religious Jew with a commitment to daily minyanim and learning, a loving family man, and someone about whom the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot could have been written when Rabbi Shimon says there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of kingship, the crown of priesthood, but the crown of a good name surpasses them all. When I was talking to Wendy earlier, she said to me that on her father's deathbed, his single biggest concern was the future of the foundation. And I think in that light, you can understand my trepidation and humility in taking on the role that late Gerald used to occupy as chairman of the Yeshiva College Foundation, and in some small way trying to perpetuate his holy work in coordinating the funding for Yeshiva College. One of Gerald's fundraising events was to host a business breakfast, and we have decided that we will endeavor to make this an annual event where we can not only raise money for a very worthy cause, but do it in the honor of the late Gerald as a way of perpetuating his memory through a cause that was so dear to his heart, and one which he gave tirelessly to, both in terms of time and money. Furthermore, we have decided to initiate an award that will be given out annually for exceptional service to the Yeshiva College community, which will be known as the Gerald Leissner Yeshiva College Legacy Award, and in so doing serve as a baton in passing the legacy from one great communal leader to another. In that respect, we are delighted to say that the initial recipient of the inaugural Gerald Leissner Yeshiva College Legacy Award is Mr. Israel Bender, who has tirelessly served the school for in excess of 20 years, and most recently as Chairman of the Board of Governors for the past 6 years. Our dear Rosh Yeshiva will pay tribute to Israel for his decades-long commitment to Yeshiva College, which goes back to Israel's role as a student, I think, some many decades ago. Permit me to focus on the foundation for a few minutes. Our role is to ensure the financial sustainability of Yeshiva College through both fundraising and managing the capital fund. One of the central tenets on which Yeshiva College is built is the principle that no child will ever be turned away from Yeshiva College education for financial reasons. We all know the current challenges and rising cost of living. The translation of those consequences on our campus is such that some 31% of all pupils on our campus are not in a position to pay full tuition. That translates into nearly 18% of our potential revenue being made available as subsidies to families who want to give their children the best Torah education possible but are unable to do so financially. If you look at the numbers, if all children in our school were able to pay full fees, we would raise around 95 million rand per annum in revenue. It costs us approximately 90 million rand to run the school, which in theory would leave us with an operating profit of some 5 million rand. However, in 2018, we've given away 17 million rands worth of subsidies. So you can see we make a 5 million operating profit, we give away 17, we have a shortfall of 12 million rand per annum that we have to fundraise for just to balance the books. That's not investing in future growth, it's not around new facilities, that we have to fundraise for separately. The task is absolutely staggering, and it's a task we dare not fail in, as the consequences would be dire. In an environment of no state support for religious-based schools and where there are no viable alternatives for parents to consider, we must succeed in our mission. We have no option. To do this, we need a combination of various fundraising initiatives which run throughout the year, and that is the holy task we have at the Yeshiva College Foundation. We need to ensure that we are able to raise this money to allow all parents to give their children the benefit of a best-in-class education in both Torah and general studies here at Yeshiva College, irrespective of their financial position. We are fortunate that we have a capital fund of some 42 million rand, which is invested very conservatively on a capital preservation and income mandate. With Hashem's help, we've generated an annual return of around 14% per annum since inception. However, given the rising subsidy needs, we have given all the income and capital growth on that fund to the school over the past few years just to meet the subsidy needs on an annual basis. In fact, the only mandate of the capital fund is to provide money for subsidies. It's not there for capital projects. As I said, that we have to fundraise for separately. Our goal and dream is to try and grow the capital fund to 100 million rand, which if successful will go a long way to ensuring the sustainability of Yeshiva College well into the future. It's a daunting task, but it's critical for the future of our community. In addition to that, we need to raise some 8 to 10 million rand per annum by way of regular cash flow. Donations coming in either as lump sums or as annuity amounts through monthly debit orders. And my request to all of you is as follows. We are all faced with multiple requests from very many charities. All of them have got good causes. I've yet to come across a charity that doesn't have a good cause. All I can ask and I beg of you is to consider Yeshiva College when you're making your allocations of your tzedakah. All the money raised is used exclusively to ensure the continuity of the school and the Rosh Yeshiva's dream of providing a top quality Torah education to all those who desire the best for their children, irrespective of their financial means. Our children emerge confident, capable, optimistic, and driven by Torah values and a desire to contribute to the world in their chosen vocations as Torah-centered and committed Jews. An investment in a Yeshiva College education is an investment in the future. It's about giving people the best chance in life to succeed with a top quality education. And most importantly, it's an investment in Jewish continuity and future growth in Torah. This is chesed and welfare of the highest order. On behalf of the Rosh Yeshiva and the Yeshiva College Foundation, we would like to thank you all for attending this very special function this morning. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speakers. I think we are blessed this morning to have two icons of the South African business world, Marc Wainer and David Shapiro. Marc Wainer is a legend in the property industry. I'm fortunate to count Marc as a partner and a friend, and can only say you're dealing with a man of the highest integrity, a real visionary, and a person deeply committed to transforming the country and doing the best for people. David is a very well-known market commentator, a very astute market commentator, and will really lead us through a very informal discussion with Marc, where we're going to tap into Marc's insights and views on the local economy, the international economy, and most importantly, his mentorship program, which can really have a very major impact on this economy. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Marc and David onto stage. You can see we both old, we had to take the step. Rabbi Tanzer, all other reporting and all guests. I have one comment on Gerald Leissner. When I started on the stock exchange in 1972, at first we were in the old building in Holloway Street. We moved to Diagonal Street,
And when we were in Diagonal Street, across the road was Amaprop. And I often used to bump into Gerald Leissner. White beard, very rabbinically looking. We had a client, she was a wonderful lady. Her name was Lily Klawansky. Her husband was the Rov of Yovel Shul. She loved to trade in shares. She got us more clients on Musenberg Beach. Wonderful woman. And she made a comment to me, which stuck with me forever. When she looked at Gerald, she said, "That's a man who gives Jews a good name." So insightful and so beautiful.
I think the question is, with you as a stockbroker, did you make any money?
I was working for Gus Lipschitz at the time, and bless Gus, because she could keep you on the phone for a long time. And in those old days, we used to have the phones on the cradle. You know, these were old phones, landlines, and that. And every time, there were two clients that used to. One was Oscar Fruman. He used to phone to find out the price of Nampak all the time. And there was Mrs. Klawansky. And Gus used to just lean across and just tap the phone down mid-conversation. You know, we were cut off. It's really wonderful to be here. And I'm really glad that Carol invited me. The only problem is that I'm an equity man. And anybody who's been in the market knows that over years, equities always outperform property.
Is it perhaps because property stocks are a little bit more difficult to understand?
That's why we're here. That's why I'm going to ask you. You know, there's a question that I would have loved to ask Gerald, mainly because I think he was a little more learned, rabbinical, and he had the beard and everything. When I look around here and you look at the names, there's Neville Berkowitz, Daryl Mayers, Edwin Jakelovitz. We go back to when I joined the market, Norman Beck, the Eddie Rubenstein. Throughout generations, our community seems to have dominated the property sector. Is it in our DNA? What is? This is a trick question. What is it that draws?
It started off when people arrived here or anywhere else, and they started a little business, an outfitting shop or whatever it was. They were always scared that the landlord would cancel their lease or not renew the lease.
Because of our history.
Because of the history. So there was always a sense of, I want to own, I want to protect my business. When I started in the property industry, I could go to Carltonville, Vereeniging, you'd meet Mr. Cohen or somebody. We had a little shop, got three stores, he had one. And you'd want to buy the building, but he'd tell you that the building had foundations to go in stories. they all built for one day, but it was a sense of protectionism that come from Lithuania, from wherever they'd come, and they had this fear. And that's why I think that property ownership became very entwined with Jewish life.
And it continues.
Yeah.
Got Mr.
For
Reck,
different reasons.
Mr. Wainer.
Now we try and make some money out of it.
I'm going to ask you the question because over the last few years, the property market has been the bulwark of the JSE. I joke often in TV and that, and I said, you know, next week they're going to list the tuck shop at King David. You know, anything that had foundations was being listed, and and there was an insatiable demand for property. This year, it's gone the other way. We've had a huge amount of losses with the resilient group. There might be issues around that. I'm not going to discuss that. Even NEPI, which we all hold and revere, down, and so on. Growth Point, stocks like Growth Point, Redefine, all of those have come down quite significantly. Yesterday, in a market where I haven't seen for years, and it's a market to celebrate, the property sector was down again. What's your reading? What's your understanding of the market? And I always ask it in a different way. When you answer this question, make out as though you're talking to your granddaughter and you're handling her trust funds. Don't talk to the audience.
Okay, so I think, as you say, property had a fantastic run. 10, 12 years, through good and bad times. Okay? The South African market is a little different to most international markets in that our yields are lower than our borrowing costs. Okay? Whereas in Europe you borrow 2% to about 8%, but there's been strong demand driven by listings, by listed funds, by people who want to get in. And there was demand for space with expansion. The last 2 to 3 years, certainly we've seen with the economy, with GDP growth, gross domestic product for the granddaughters, the growth is not there. We need GDP 3% or higher to create demand for space. That's just something anecdotally that I know over the years. So without that, you have what I call musical chairs. All new cranes and buildings are just people moving from one building to another, simply because they can get better space at the same rent or cheaper. So we're not getting growth in rentals. You'll recall it wasn't unusual for property stocks to show growth in distributions of 10, 11, 12%, 8% became the norm, 9%. Now it's 5 or 6, simply because our rentals, as our leases expire and the leases come to an end, are not going up because they've had escalations. In order to keep that tenant, you're keeping the rent flat or you're going backwards. And this is the problem with the property industry now, coupled with the fact that there's this inertia. Everybody's waiting for the elections. People are nervous about making decisions. So everybody's put their expansion plans, growth, capital expenditure on hold until they see what happens in Beijing next year.
Do you see that capital expenditure happening? I mean, if you listened last week and went through, I'm an accountant by trade. I love to go through the budget as an accountant would and look at what we get in and what we pay out. And it horrifies me. It's actually horrific reading in that. Do you see this happening? Do you get a feel amongst the people that you deal with, that you interact with, that there is the chance that we are going to get even, to 2% to 3%?
It's all going to, look, as you know, a lot of this is confidence driven, and it's going to depend on how much confidence people have. And also, the basic economics. I was talking to somebody who's chairman of a business that's got a whole lot, but they make biscuits. They have an old machine. Should they buy a new machine? The new machine will produce 50 or 60% more biscuits than they're actually doing now, but there's no demand for it. So why go and buy the machine? And it's that kind of thing. So we need the economy stimulated one way or another. And we need more confidence, because largely the South African economy, which many years ago was mining orientated, today is still consumer driven. So we need, and consumers with petrol price increases, VAT increases, are really under pressure.
Well, Mark, taking this a bit further, when you go into a shopping centre, and I sit as an advisor on a very large pension fund that owns quite a few properties. I think you're partners with them in certain sectors in that. For the first time in all the years that I've been there, the property man is showing strain. One of the big strains comes from Edgar's. And one of the issues is that they're starting to reduce space. If you go into Melrose Arch, where our offices are, it's now just become a cosmetic counter, rather they've just closed off an enormous amount of space, etc. When they start doing that, it has ongoing consequences in that everybody else also wants to reduce space or reduce rent. How do you see the retail side and shopping centre? There's a follow-up question once you've answered this one.
So I think, again, South African retailers had a follow-me principle. To go back and ask the question, do they need 4 or 5 shops within 3 kilometres from Killarney, Rosebank, Melrose Arch, if we're talking, let's say, areas? Maybe they needed 2. But if Woolworths went, I was going. So you had this follow-me principle. They were also, in many cases, oversized. Multiple brands, branches. And when times were good, it's fine. You just kept growing space. From a landlord's point of view, it's good and bad. It depends on how good your centre is. Because someone like Edgar's is not paying you the best rental, so if you get space up and you can convert it to smaller stores, you do better. Or if you can't, it's a problem. And when you have a large centre, let's take a city for example, who do you, forget about Edgar's, take Studdefields who closed. So who do you put in that space who's not already there? They had a discount who wasn't there, that's fine. The rest of the space, you put in another clothes shop, you put in another shoe shop, your foot traffic's not increasing, so your trading densities for your other tenants within that business drop. There's only so many pairs of shoes being sold per day. So those are the problems. It used to be all about increasing your foot traffic in your shopping malls. Today it's preserving. We just want to keep the customers we've got that we're happy. So retail, which was being really solid for many, many years, is now under strain. Again, because the consumers.
So you're pushing more people to equity rather than property?
Well, it depends. We like to do it both ways. If you're a trustee for a pension fund that's got some property, you're a buyer at the right price. I think it's time you get out.
I've just returned. I have a daughter in New York. I go there often. I follow the retail side very closely. E-commerce is starting to have an impact. What we're seeing developing there is that if you walk into a store now, in the past, if they never had your size, they'll say, we'll check at some other shop, drive it. Today it comes the next day. They say, onto the internet, you buy it. Shops are changing. I've seen the Amazon shop now, where they now have an actual physical store, but the store is really around the people that live in that area. The question, and what I'm trying to get to, what's the future of retail or of retail malls? And I'm saying this also against the backdrop that you've painted, where stores are reducing space, there's a lot more pressure. So if you're a mall owner, where's the next step? What do you have to do in that mall to get that foot traffic that you're talking about?
So I think there are a whole lot of factors at play there. The one is e-commerce. If you look at the American market, it's also the demise of department stores, which have been accelerated to some extent by e-commerce, but were dying anyway. The model was Sears and these people from 100 years ago. That was they struggled. So e-commerce is growing. In places like the UK, it seems to be a ceiling of about 20%. But you have to make your shopping malls more relevant. And what's more important is your tenants need to embrace. So what's happening in many places is the concept of click and collect is working very well. So the cost for, whether it's Amazon or any one of these guys, of delivery is a big issue, delivery and returns. So the click and collect model says, I order, but I choose to go into whichever store it is to collect it, possibly try it on. If I don't like it, I'll leave it or I'll buy something else. And where they have click and collect, they're seeing 20-25% increase in store sales. So we need to partner with our tenants to make it a much easier scenario. And more importantly, the shopping mall, which it already is to some extent a place of meeting and greeting, needs to be a place of entertainment. So we don't just need food courts, we need fine dining, we need restaurants, we need food halls, we need
the circus.
We need the circus, we need weddings, whatever it might be. We need to make these malls far more entertainment orientated, because you can buy, as I was telling a lady in the UK the other day on one of our boards, you can buy your fridge and your washing machine and your pair of jeans on the internet, but she can't have her hair done yet on the internet, and nor can she have her nails done. So there are reasons for people to go to malls, and you have to make the experience for that person as pleasant as you can from the time the parking boom opens through to the time they leave and everything in between. Where we fail badly in South Africa, I think from the retailer's point of view, is the training of the staff. You've just come back from America. I don't know if you do any shopping.
A little bit, just a little bit.
If you go into virtually any half reasonable store and you buy a pair of socks or a tie, it gets beautifully wrapped and put in a beautiful packet, and the people are very pleasant. And here it almost gets thrown at you. So our retailers have got a long way to go in terms of making that shopping experience really different, making the person feel like they care. That's a big issue for us.
The one thing that strikes me, and maybe it works in Manhattan and nowhere else, is that the nail places, the hairdressers, all those service areas stay open till 8, 9, 10, because people can't leave their jobs during the day. South Africa, when I finish at Satsford and I want to go buy something at Woolworths, 6 o'clock, closed. Is it?
There are places in South Africa where there's late night shopping. When Melrose Arch was being conceived, they consulted various people. We were consulted. We advocated a late night centre. We said you should only open 9, 10 in the morning and stay open till 10 at night. People are coming there to eat. People are coming there after work. It's crazy that a Woolworths closes, I think, at 5:30 or 6.
I'm going to shift now. A month or two ago, you gave me a phone call and you invited me to come to Poland.
One of my moments of weakness.
My immediate thought was, all the Yidden in South Africa, they fled Poland. So the first thing I did was I looked up Chabad House Poland. I've actually found that they've gone back there. They are in Warsaw and they're in Krakow. And I thought, well, once Chabad's going back there, it's safe, it's okay. A lot of South African property companies, including yourself, have been attracted to Eastern Europe, Romania, to all the areas around there, including Poland, etc. What's the catch? Why the drive, and why South Africa? Why not the rest of the world?
There are very many people from Germany, Europe, now even from the East, Korea, Singapore investing in Poland. So I can't talk about Romania and other places because I'm not there. If you go back, and you get quite upset about this, because Poland came out of communism in 1990. We had our first democratic elections in 1994. When you see what was Poland in 1990 and what it is today, what they've managed to do with that economy, with that country, granted that they do have huge aid from the EU and they get a big budget, but they've been, to give you an idea, unemployment in 96 or thereabouts, 96, 97 was 21%. Population's about 40 million people.
Which is
it's below 3. And the biggest problem that Poland has at the moment is labor. Okay, so for agriculture, the building industry, they're bringing in people from Ukraine and Belarus, nearly 2 million people, because they can't service what they do. People are highly educated, they've got a work ethic that you cannot believe, and the country is booming. Back office, business centers, logistics.
What's the driver? What is
the driver? Is very simple. Your salaries and wages. You've got a highly educated population. Their salaries and wages are 30-35% of what you would pay in Germany or elsewhere in Europe. With an unbelievable work ethic, very easy labor laws, okay, in terms of hiring and firing. Then the fact that they've had 9 or 10 governments, various coalitions since 1990, the one thing that has remained intact is the economic policy. What they did in 1990 is they decided they were going to be aligned with the West. They went and looked at the EU rules on economic policy. That's what they've implemented and that's what they've stuck to. So it's Poland and Australia are the only countries in the world that have had uninterrupted GDP growth for 27 years. Okay. This year the GDP growth has been revised upwards from 4.2 to 4.8. In a country with inflation of 1.5, maybe going to 2%, retail sales growth is 8%.
So it wasn't a moment of weakness that you said go to Poland?
No, you know what? We found Poland by mistake. As Lawrence knows, we were going into to Spain. We bought one property and I invited him. And I saw what was going on in Poland. I said, that's it. Can't do Spain, give it to Lawrence if you want to. And we went to Poland, and it's been, for us, the most amazing experience. And as I say, when I compare it to what we need to do in South Africa, this is a solid set of principles that have been applied, ways and means of creating employment for people to do this. We had guys from Poland here Monday and Tuesday, and they were telling us that the biggest problem we have at the moment on building sites is we have to have guards to stop other construction companies coming to take the labour. So, I mean, it's a complete turnaround. The country is booming. Yes, they have right-wing governments, like most places are going these ways now, but they're kept in check. There was this big issue on changing the judges, forcing to retire at 65, just been overturned by the EU, so they had to reinstate them and an appeal. I don't care. I really don't care about the judges, okay? What we're going to do. I care about the economic policy.
Yeah.
But the economic policy is unbelievable.
So, I mean, going back to your granddaughter's trust fund, I mean, would you put her money into Poland, into this? It's there. I'm not sure how much time we've got here. I'm looking for a sign, or a yellow card, or a red card, or something. Was that hello? 5 more minutes.
The big difference, David, is, and you can work it out, even as an equity player, okay? I'll explain to you like I explained to my granddaughter. In South Africa, if I went to buy a property, office block or a warehouse, let's take a warehouse with a good 10-year lease from a good tenant, I'll buy it probably at 8%. My cost of funding is 10 or 10.5. I can buy that same property, probably better built in Poland, okay, at 8%, maybe 7.5, but a funding cost fixed for 7 years at 2%. Okay, so you gear, let's say 50%, and you can work out that your return on equity is 13-14%.
Makes sense. Mark, can you get that message through to the authorities here? I know you have the mentorship program, and you're mentoring young people. You're doing a lot of work in that area.
We try and do that because I really think that as business, if we look at business in South Africa, we look at government. Forget about using government. If we go back, right back to 94, okay, it didn't matter. If we think about it structurally, this country had a hell of a lot of holes in terms of the past, and I don't think any government could have done everything that needed to be done. Yes, the ANC did some good things, electricity, water provision, some housing, and we know they wasted a hell of a lot of money and stole a hell of a lot of money and all of that. But if you look at it, if you said, who can I put there today to run the country? Let's take Tanzer, putting the holes are too big. The holes are too big. They're not potholes, they're deep sinkholes. So we as business have to find ways and means to improve the situation for people. You saw the latest unemployment figures. They're a disaster. That for me is the biggest single issue facing this country, because we're sitting on a ticking time bomb. We can't have close to 10 million people who are unemployed. That's why we've got high crime. And these people, sooner or later, they'll be the African spring, not the Arab spring, not the hand. These people are dissatisfied. We have to find ways and means of employing 1.5, 2 million people, starting to make a dent. And it's all very well saying, look, times are tough, we can't afford to do it. I think we have to find, we can't afford not to do it. As business, we have to find
Are you
ways.
taking that message around? I mean,
I try. Some people listen. I mean, some people are doing really good things. Stephen Kosovo, or the youth employment scheme. There are lots of of people trying, but we need coordinated things. We need, and the problem is it becomes an uneven playing field. So if we say we're going to do this, and our opposition doesn't, or opposition doesn't, then we don't have a level playing field. So we need government to come and say this is what, and in truth of the fact, sooner or later we're going to get the inverted commas, one form or another, the wealth tax, because there's no other way to raise money. What we should be doing as business is getting the wealth tax, let's call it the levy, whatever it might be, but we administer it, not government.
Things are tough. I just noticed Lawrence's presentation of what they have to raise each year just to educate people. So it's tough on households. I know we're running out of time in that. You're no longer gainfully employed. I think you stepped down. I was going to ask you. You've written your book. You stepped down.
If I go back, remember we worked together. People say, well, I say we worked together. We had the same employer. I worked. You became a TV personality. Now it's reversed. I'm employed. I work full day.
Is this in your own business?
In Redefine. Okay, so what I said at the beginning of this year, because everybody can applaud next week, I'm turning 70. So I said to my board, I'm turning 70. Yeah, I said, I'm turning 70. Do you want me to hit the road? They said, no. I said, we have an issue with our investors, people like you, who don't like an executive chairman from a corporate governance point of view. So 3.5, going on 4 years ago, I stepped down as CEO. I passed it on to Andrew Koenig, my CEO. Watched him with a bit of trepidation for about 18 months, 2 years, but very comfortable that he's really doing a great job, so I can step back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remain an executive director, not chairman. We'll get a new chairman. I'll continue to do the acquisitions, disposals, some leasing, mentoring the people that work for us, people outside, and just keeping a watching eye on the business. But I'm still there, so I'm not stepping down yet. When they want me to go, I'll go. But until they tell me the road, we'll do it.
Well, please God, you should be spared for a long life and a long active life. You've been a great contributor to this economy. You're highly regarded in the industry. People talk very highly. May I say that you also give us a good name. Lawrence, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to just thank Marc for everything. I'm going to thank everybody here for their attention. And I don't know if you want to open up to one question. Anybody from a non-property man? And there's no one here. Anybody want to ask Marc before we close off? One question that... No? Come, Lawrence. You must have lots.
I can just tell everybody, if it's the ladies, I'm sorry, I am married. So
Should we leave it there? Do you want to ask anything?
David, in fact, I've got a question for you. Not for Marc, but he and I have discussed this before. When are you going to start promoting property stocks in your shows and your talks?
You know, oddly enough, I've been doing that for as long as we've got Regulation 28. I've got no choice but to buy a property, and it's been very rewarding. I have to say, I think that, and again, I must admit that from a property point of view, we have superb people running businesses here. You know, and I've said that publicly. When you look at the quality of our property businesses, they stand above everything else that we do. I know they might not have the economic circumstances, but all credit to you, to Marc, and to all the other people in this room for how they've performed and how they've run that sector. And going back to Gerald, to the days of Gerald,
Very interestingly, if you look at where the property stocks are price-wise at the moment, and the volumes that we've seen going through our stocks growth point, I thought it was the international, because we've got 22-23% international on cars, and they're the buyers. It's the locals who've been the sellers. So they're seeing real value. We really need you. Just next time we go to Poland, we must come and have a look. It's an eye-opener, And by the way, if anybody does go in Warsaw, there's a place that they even do glut kosher.
If you ask me what my best stock is, it's Ferrari.
Tell us why.
Because it's the best brand. It beats LVMH. And you just have to understand luxury brands to understand the mindset of the buyer. So, anyway.
Very good.
Yeah.
David, Mark, thank you very much. Asking Mark if he's crazy with the Jewish guys going back to Poland. I have been asked if our acquisitions in Spain is a retribution for the Spanish Inquisition, is our Spanish acquisition. But I guess we're all getting around and making our mark if we can. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I think really, ladies and gentlemen, what you've heard is a masterclass in property investing. I think what we're going to need to do is invite Mark and David back to speak to our Yeshiva College students and make sure we get the next generation of property moguls coming through. And now it gives me great pleasure to welcome our Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Avraham Tanzer Shlita, who will say a few words about Gerald and our honorary Israel Bender. Rosh Yeshiva.
Chairman, the chairman of our Yeshiva Foundation, Mr. Lawrence Reb. You know, at the Board of Deputies years ago, I learned an interesting concept. It's called protocol observed. It means you've been welcomed already. You're welcome today at least 6 times, including by myself on the video, by Lawrence, by Bernstein, again and again. So I'm going to limit myself simply by welcoming, first of all, the Leissner family as we stand here on this occasion to re-inaugurate the Yeshiva College Breakfast that Gerald inaugurated so many years ago, single-handedly. Sold the tables, got the speakers, did it all by himself. We tried to reintroduce it in his memory, his blessed memory, and thank you all for being here today and making that possible. So I welcome Wendy and Max and their children. I welcome his son Michael, and Shirley is streaming, so Shirley from afar in Israel, Mazel Tov and Adin's Bar Mitzvah, which is taking place, and the entire family there. I want to welcome as well, of course, our honoree tonight, our Israel this morning, Israel and Avraham Bender, and their children, grandchildren, siblings, and dear friends. And my friends, I want to thank the guest speakers who are so informative, so entertaining, and rather young, I thought. At my age, 70 is still a kid. So Mark, you've got a long way to go. Please God, with strength and happiness and health and knowledge. Right. And my friends, I want to welcome our chairman of Yeshiva College, Mr. Avraham Tanzer, chairman of our Board of Governors, and Michelle, and members of the Board of Yeshiva College who are here this morning. My friends, I was actually honored and daunted at the same time. I just want to address this in a few minutes to pay tribute to Gerald Leissner, introduce a new award Yeshiva College is sponsoring in his name, and presenting it to the honoree. How can you do that in a few minutes? Of course the answer is you can't. But anyhow, let me put it to you this way. Much of which I would have wanted to say has been said, and if I put it into a few words, there are a lot of Geralds. There isn't one Gerald. It's almost impossible to describe. He's described as a rabbi here today. That's a good description. He gives the rabbis a good name, by the way. He gave the rabbis a good name. He still does. He was the man of character, indestructible, gentle giant, driven, focused, visionary, sympathetic, empathetic, ego-free, and so on and so forth. To me personally, he was my best friend. My best friend, my advisor, my confidant. I spoke to him on the phone at least a few times a day, and for 40 years he held my hand. Whatever we did at Yeshiva College in the last 4 decades, Gerald was there, not holding my hand, leading the way. And then of course there's Gerald of so many other parts. The husband, the father, the grandfather, the communal leader, the meticulous observant Jew who went to shul every single day, the brilliant businessman, Mr. Property, as he has been called, and so on and so forth. South African patriot, optimist, believer in the future of South Africa, human rights, etc. And then you have the communal leader. I can't go through all the organizations that would cover the whole city, but of course, board of deputies for a lifetime, held all the major positions there. IUA, UCF, in recent years, Holocaust Museum, Foundation 2000. These were Gerald's innovations and inventions. In addition to all else, and working for Yeshiva College 24/7 for 40 years, 24/7, day and night. As a matter of fact, he had nightmares about cash flow. I know that. He used to tell me every day. He had nightmares about cash flow continuously. So how do you pay tribute to Gerald? So let me put it this way. I want to contextualize it in a few short words. You know, we have a granddaughter, my wife and I. We have a granddaughter, her name is Devorah Rudolph. Devorah Rudolph is married to a guy called Izzy, and they have four children, our great-grandchildren, Baruch Hashem, that we're very proud of. And they live in a place you never heard of last week. It's called Pittsburgh. It's called Squirrel Hill. And my granddaughter told us on the phone, right after Shabbat, all day Shabbat they heard sirens. The area must be closed off, so nobody went out of their house. Sirens all day. They couldn't imagine what's happening. And then when Shabbos was over and they turned on the TV, they were traumatized and turned upside down and inside out when they realized that the whole world was looking at their street. These people lived 2 blocks from that community. As for Jewish Life is Centered, Squirrel Hill, all the shuls, including Chabad, everything is in that area. And suddenly became center of the world. And described, as you know very well, as we've heard so many times, described as the most terrific anti-Semitic experience in American history. What a mouthful. What a mouthful. Most terrific anti-Semitic experience in American history. America's big. History is long. Most terrific. But my friends, you and I know that the tragedy that happened had nothing to do with Squirrel Hill, nothing to do with Pittsburgh, nothing to do with Pennsylvania. It's a world problem. It's everybody's problem. It's a Jewish problem because they made it a Jewish problem, but not only a Jewish problem, it's a problem of the world. Years ago, 25 years ago, a quarter of a century ago, when CNN came on the scene, what they called the global village, so many of us were convinced, I'm sure many of you were convinced, that if this had existed 60 years ago, 70 years ago, in the 30s and 40s, Hitler couldn't have done it. He never could have done it. It wouldn't have happened. You look back today, that was wrong. That was ridiculous. It would have happened earlier, and there would have been more copycats as well. My friends, the global village, as we know very well today, the global village, we call it social media, call whatever fancy names you want, is in fact a vehicle sprouting poisonous rants, hate, bigotry, anti-Semitism, and appealing to the sick, evil, whacked up minds and souls of people who don't mind getting killed, as long as they have the few hours or a day or two of infamy. The whole world will see these nobodies who no one will ever see anyhow. Well, you pay for that. And people are prepared for that. And when people pay, other people pay too. And there are victims, and there are so many victims. How do I apply this to Gerald, my friends? I'll apply it to this book. When Gerald passed away, one pasuk in the Torah jumped into my mind, which I expressed at his funeral. The pasuk is, the words are the words that Hashem described Moshe. Hashem described the leading Jew. You know what he said? B'chol beisi ne'emanhu. In my whole house, this is the trusted one. In my whole house, one reliable, one constant, one you could count on always. And that was Gerald. My friends, if I take this just one step further while I'm holding you up, in the Torah this week, as a matter of fact, you have an interesting thing. Avraham, the patriarch Abraham, the first Jew, He was known as the great theologian, monotheism. He was known as the great humanitarian, chesed. But he was also Avraham the Wealthy. He was the wealthiest man in Asia. As the Torah keeps on repeating, Kesed, Bizov, etc., he was laden with all kind of wealth. And he called his trusted servant Eliezer, and he told Eliezer, he says, my son needs a wife. You got to find a Meshidach. And off goes Eliezer to find the wife of Yitzchak, which he eventually did. And he comes to these people, the parents of Rivka, Lavan, Betuel, happen to be their names. He has to introduce himself. Who are you? What's my calling card? What can it say? According to the Torah, he was in charge of all of Avram's assets. Meishel b'chol ha'shalom. In this week's portion was, as a matter of fact, and he was in charge of it all. He was entitled to say, I am the managing director of the Anglo-Abraham and Enterprises on the continent of Asia. What a title. What a title. Everything. Includes everything. But he doesn't say that. You know what he says? 3 words. His calling card, 3 words in Hebrew. Eved Avraham Anochi. I am Abraham's servant. I am Abraham's servant, which is another way of saying, I believe in the values of Abraham. I believe in God, the creator of heaven and earth. I believe in God, the creator of mankind. And therefore I believe every human being has the right to dignity. Every human being has the right to be treated as an equal. I believe in all these values that go clear across the world. Eved Avraham Anochi. My dear friends, our friend Gerald was that. Eved Avraham. He lived the life of an Abraham. He gave and he gave and he gave to the last moments of his life. He was giving. He was sitting at his lifetime in his sober, healthy moments to the last minutes of his life, which is 2 years in December, in just a couple of months. And so, my friends, to have known Gerald, to have worked with Gerald, this giant who will not be replaced, I call it a singular achievement. Singular achievement means not going to happen again. Not for a long time. Never is a big word, but at the same time, that was Gerald. We honor his memory with love, and the Yeshiva College's testament. This is the monument he built and left. Yeshiva College School, Yeshiva College Shul, Yeshiva College Campus. And that campus wishes to honor Gerald now by introducing an award which is for monumental service to our community, to our campus, to Yeshiva education, to helping Jewish children get an education, as you've heard again and again tonight. And that's what we are about to do now. Let me put it to you this way. The first recipient of this monumental award, and it's really an award to be treasured because it's special, is being given to our outgoing chairman, my very dear friend, close friend, and dear friend of so many years and decades, Israel Bender, of a younger generation, not Gerald's generation, a younger generation. And Israel was born in Germany in 1961, and his bar mitzvah in 1974. His parents were Rabbi Rebbitzin at that time in Port Elizabeth, Rabbi Dov, Rebbitzin Loreen, special people, brilliant people, and great friends of ours. And they took this young kid at 13, sent him away from home, sent him to Yeshiva College Hostel because they wanted him to have a Torah education. And that was the only place you could get it. We were at that time the only kid on the block. Ben Yochid did call us. Today we have a lot of company. But in those days we were Ben Yochid, and Israel came to Yeshiva, became a member of our family. We loved having him around. He was never that quiet. We loved having him around. We loved having him around, and it was a pleasure. And from Yeshiva College, he went on to the great Yeshiva Keren B'Yavne, where he studied under Rabbi Goldberg. He came back to help Rabbi Pfeiffer rebuild the Yeshiva Gedolah here, and he has been studying Torah ever since. He's a qualified rabbi. He's a Talmud Chacham. He is a man of Beisai. He is a businessman, and he is a man who learns Torah, and he's a man who teaches Torah. And he has a shir going for decades that many people in this room probably attend. And that, with great reverence, respect, they applaud our dear friend Israel. I would say he reminds me of another chairman of Yeshiva College, even going further back, and a good friend of his parents as well, Rabbi Joseph Brunner and Professor Lila Brunner, who came to this country in 1950. Not a rabbi, but not a practicing rabbi. Businessman, diamond business. And together with Rabbi Kosovsky, and I believe he was the engine that drove the dream of Rabbi Kosovsky, and other fine people as well, of course. But he needed a driver. Rabbi Brunner made it happen. And I think in our generation, Israel, you have been our Rabbi Brunner. And I just got their memoir yesterday and read it, and it's truth to tell. This really defines you in so many ways. Rabbi Bender, if I can talk about it for just a moment, because people like Israel don't just appear. People like Malka, Marion, his siblings don't disappear either. You know how that happens? These people living in Port Elizabeth sent their 2 girls to the Ministers Training College to become teachers under Rabbi Kutzlach, but they had no place to stay. We didn't have a hospital for girls. And so they stayed at the Connoisseur Hotel for years and years till they graduated. Now you imagine, Port Elizabeth was a wealthy community, must have paid the rabbi very well. But not enough to have 2 kids at the Connoisseur Hotel. So anyhow, this is the sacrifice. This is from whence Israel comes. This is what's behind Israel. And on the side, it is from that background you have Israel Bender, who is a teacher and a role model to so many others in our campus and far beyond, across the city and across the country. And so, my friends, we are about to make this presentation to Israel. And while I thank Israel, I want to thank his wife Avril and his children, because after all, we deprived you of a husband and a father. We took advantage for 20 years. So when his eldest child entered nursery, he joined the Board of Governors, our nursery school PTA chairman, of course. And when his youngest child finished now, he retired as chairman of the Board of Governors. And so for 6 years, you have led the yeshiva in every major and minor decision. And we thank you for that very much, David Shapiro. And to you and your wife and your family, we say, Yelchu meichayil ochoyel. May you go from strength to strength. May Hashem bless you for the life that you lead, what you are doing and will do, and may you have a life full of health, happiness, and achas. My friend, Israel Bender. Avraham, please come forward for a presentation. Appreciate it.
There are a lot of people who've been called rabbi today. I'm not sure neither Gerald nor I would have responded to the title. I can't do all protocol observed. Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Glicksberg, our new principal, Rob Long, Lawrence Rapp, an amazing friend, chairman of our foundation, Avram Kringle, chairman of our school, members of the Leissner family, and a word to David Shapiro. If King David High School could list their tuck shop, we're going to get another broker to list our Rosh Yeshiva. I also know that there's only one thing separating most of you from contributing to Adrian Gore's from further contributing to Adrian Gore's pension fund and to attending his leadership summit. So in order that you spend just 2 more minutes listening to me, I'm going to keep it short. And then I will let you go to a philandering ex-USA president with a wife who was a wannabe president, and a prime minister who contributed Brexit to ensure his exit. Rosh Yeshiva, if I knew you were going to say such nice things about me, I would have let you speak and I would have given you over my time. And I'm pleased that the Rosh Yeshiva didn't honor the dictum of Ktsachiv Cholefanav, only a modicum of praise in front of the honoree, because he laid my life bare back 3 generations. There has been no better role model and mentor than Avraham Tanzer. It's not a coincidence that the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva's name is Avraham, and when he spoke of Gerald, he spoke of Eved Avraham. I'm not necessarily sure that Gerald and the Rosh Yeshiva's relationship isn't the reason why we see a successful Yeshiva College today. A word about Gerald. There's been no better role model, mentor, and friend than Gerald, a communal giant, and I don't say that lightly, involved in so many charitable causes, and he did so without politics and truly without an agenda. His only agenda was the greater good. He was a doer, a mover, a shaker, a captain of industry, but he remained a humble servant of and to his community. Eons ago, well, they gave it my date of birth now, so exactly 40 years ago, almost to the day, one of our matric exams, yes, it happened then, gentlemen and ladies, one of our matric exams then was leaked. I'm embarrassed to say it was a Hebrew paper. It entailed a rewrite. We had an English teacher by the name of Tom Swart. No, and I didn't get that wrong. We had an English teacher by the name of Tom Swart, and he quipped that the art of education is to produce leaders, not dealers, and teachers, not cheaters. And I come from a home that valued communal services, you heard, and I'm fortunate that my immediate family promoted the fact that I should keep my disagreements communal and not familial. I thank my family and friends and the people I've had the privilege of working with, the Rosh Yeshiva, rabbis, principals, teachers, board members, captains of industry who brought their own professionalism into our Yeshiva College boardroom. To my executive that I was so fortunate to have around me when I served as your chairman, Lawrence, Richard, Sean, always there to assist, but not only to assist, but to challenge as well. Thanks go to, and I'm not going to mention anybody by name, thanks go to all those people in the back office, all those people who make Yeshiva College happen, while we stand in the front lines, hopefully earn the yichus and get the reward. We've had our highlights, some of them are included in your brochure. Our foundation, the fact that today we have in excess of 50 million rand, contributing, as Lawrence has said so well, to be able to subsidize our subsidy program and to ensure that we are able to still continue to give remissions to every deserving, suitable candidate for Yeshiva College education. I was going to mention some of our lowlights, but you've debated them long and hard at your Shabbos table, so I'm going to leave it there. Thanks to all my team members over the year for playing their part. Thanks again to Avril and my family for their commitment and partnership. The amount of time that a Yeshiva College chairman spends running the school is an inordinate commitment. Thanks to you for allowing me that time to pursue my passion. Let me further thank you for this singular honor, and I trust that this indeed will become an annual event that continues to honor those people that Yeshiva College is so proud of, who were able to be oisek l'tzorchei tzibur, who were able to commit some of their valuable time on an honorary basis for the benefit of our school, our community, and our shuls. I think that the key deliverable in chinuch is that chinuch has to be ledorotam. Chinuch has to be for the generations. If there is no generational transfer, then chinuch ultimately fails. Chinuch must, specifically in the Jewish community and in the Jewish environment, chinuch must deliver v'shinantam levanecha. It must deliver a family commitment to pass on what we were fortunate enough to learn. The challenge of consolidation of religious chinuch in this country, as we see much immigration and our costs rising, is still a challenge that this community needs to face and it needs to meet head on. Unfortunately, during our tenure, we were unable to deal with this substantially, but it is something that is going to face all of the Jewish day schools, and they need to meet it head on. In order to understand that chinuch is indeed ledorotam, chinuch is indeed for generations. It is no good for a teacher to keep their knowledge to his or herself, but they must ipso facto, by virtue of who they are, they must pass that on, because it's only when we pass it on that we become successful. The same is indeed true of leadership. And one of my favorite quips is that indeed leadership is a relay race. It's not a sprint, and it's definitely not a marathon. One must indeed hand over the baton. And finally, true success must and is always measured, not by one's own success, but indeed by the success of one's successor. And finally, no matter how good a dancer one is, there always comes a time to leave the stage. I wish all of those people who have received the baton, Lawrence, you in the foundation, to step into those big shoes of the late Gerald Leissner. Avraham and your team, I wish you only that Yeshiva College and the Yeshiva College Community and all our partners at Yeshiva College will go Michael El Chayil. It is a special place, Yeshiva College. It has achieved much. There are many people who owe their success to the fact that they once walked through the gate of Yeshiva College. I am but one. I thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming here this morning, supporting the Yeshiva College, its foundation, and the school. To Lawrence, Chairman of the Foundation, thank you for organizing and creating this hopefully annual event and award. To Kara Rod, the Director of the Yeshiva College Foundation, to Dan Chazin, our Operations Manager, Gavin Price, Errol Joseph, and the Yeshiva College professional team. A special thank you to our guest speakers, Marc and David, who represent the very best of South African Jewish businessmen who have contributed so greatly to this city and to this country, and to everyone who supports us on an ongoing basis. This breakfast was in the honor of the late Gerald Leissner, a man who had so many passions and so many roles that he played for this community. I always count it as my greatest privilege to have worked with him in many of them. But this, Yeshiva College, was his greatest passion and love. He spent decades making sure that it survived and grew and thrived with our Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Tanzer. And it is in his honor and to perpetuate his legacy that we will continue his wonderful work. Myself and the Board of Governors have a wonderful day. Thank you.